Have you ever been insulted so casually that for a moment you wondered if the person saying it had practiced the line beforehand? That's exactly how it felt the night my mother compared me to my sister at dinner. Not in private. Not in a heated argument. But right there at the table, in front of my dad, my sister Brianna, her fiancé Ethan, and two waiters who suddenly pretended to be very invested in refilling water glasses. It wasn't the first time Diane belittled me. But something about this night felt different. Maybe it was the public nature of it. Maybe it was the sheer confidence with which she said it. Or maybe it was because I had been carrying a secret for months, one they never expected to hear. We were at our usual Italian restaurant, the one my parents loved because it made them feel fancy. Warm lights, clinking dishes, fake smiles. The perfect backdrop for a perfect family. Except, ours wasn't so perfect. Diane was bragging about Brianna again. Her corporate job, her engagement, her bright future. And as usual, I was the silent background character in my own family narrative. Then she said it. A line so sharp it sliced straight through my chest. And that's when I realized, tonight, I wasn't staying silent. Have you ever heard something so cutting, so familiar, that it almost didn't shock you anymore, but still managed to hurt in a brand new way? That was the moment my mother looked straight at me across the table, smiled politely to the waiter, and then said the sentence she'd probably been holding on to for years. You know, Elena, you'd be so much better off if you were more like your sister. The words weren't shouted. They weren't emotional. They were delivered the same way someone might comment on the weather, casual, harmless, except it wasn't harmless at all. I felt it. The sting. The humiliation. The old ache from years of comparisons lodged right under my ribs. And the worst part? Everyone else just sat there. My dad cleared his throat and pretended to read the menu. Brianna shifted uncomfortably but didn't say a thing. Ethan stared at his water glass like it had suddenly become fascinating. Isn't it strange how a whole table can go silent when the truth finally slips out? Because here's the thing, they'd always compared us. Always. Brianna was the polished one, the golden child, the one who followed the traditional path. Meanwhile, I was the daughter who helped quietly, worked quietly, lived quietly, invisible until needed. But that night, something in me snapped. And it wasn't anger. It was clarity. Because what my mom said next didn't just cross a line, it erased it completely. Have you ever heard a sentence so blunt that the entire world seems to pause around it? Because that's exactly what happened when my mother leaned back in her chair, folded her napkin like she was delivering a polite observation, and said, "You're not half the woman your sister is." No hesitation. No softening. No awareness of the way my breath caught in my throat. It landed like a slap wrapped in silk. The restaurant noise faded into a dull hum. Forks stopped clinking. Brianna froze, Ethan looked up sharply, and my dad blinked so hard it was like he hoped he'd imagined the moment. And me? I sat there, letting the words settle. They didn't break me. They didn't even surprise me. They just confirmed something I'd been ignoring for a long time. I was never going to earn their approval by staying quiet. So I placed my fork down. Slowly. Calmly. Almost gracefully, considering the earthquake happening inside my chest. I took a breath. Then pushed my chair back. My mom's eyebrows lifted, startled. Maybe she expected me to cry. Maybe she expected me to excuse myself like I had 100 times before. But I didn't. Because while they'd spent years convincing themselves that Brianna was the shining star of the family, they had no idea what I'd been carrying on my shoulders. And what I was about to say would make my dad's face drain of every drop of color. Have you ever dropped a truth so heavy that the entire room seemed to tilt around it? Because when I opened my mouth, that's exactly what happened. I looked straight at my mother, then at my father, and said, "If Brianna is the one you think so highly of, then she can take over paying your rent." Silence. Not the normal awkward silence. No, this was the kind of silence that punches air out of a room. My dad's hand froze midway to his glass. My mom's lips parted, but no sound came out. Brianna stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. Even Ethan leaned forward, as if trying to catch every word. "What rent?" Brianna asked, genuine confusion etched across her face. Of course she didn't know. How could she? She'd never seen the overdue notices. Never met the landlord. Never taken a call from Mrs. Whitaker at 6 a.m. begging for another extension. I let the question hang for a second, long enough for it to sting. You know, I said softly, the rent I've been covering for months. The reason you're not already evicted. My dad went pale. Instantly. Like someone had drained the blood straight out of him. My mom shook her head. Elena, don't exaggerate. I laughed once, not out of humor, but disbelief. Exaggerate? I can show you the receipts. And just as the shock settled over the table like a heavy blanket, Ethan asked a question that cracked the night wide open. Have you ever watched someone's entire world start unraveling with just one question? Because that's what happened when Ethan leaned forward, eyes narrowed in confusion, and asked, Wait, has Brianna ever helped with any of this? The table shifted. My mother instantly bristled. Don't drag your sister into this. She's busy. She has a demanding job. But I cut her off. Calm. Steady. Done being erased. I have a demanding job too, I said. Yet somehow I was able to juggle work, bills, and saving your home every month. And she didn't even know it was happening. Brianna blinked like she was waking up from a long, comfortable dream. Elena, what are you talking about? So I told them everything. The late notices. The eviction warnings. The midnight emails from Mrs. Whitaker. The medical bill I covered for Mom without telling a soul. The times I skipped groceries to make sure they didn't lose their home. Each truth hit the table like a hammer. One blow after another. And every strike revealed how clueless they all truly were. My dad's eyes glossed over. Not with tears, but humiliation. My mom looked small for the first time in my life. And Brianna, she looked guilty. Not because she'd done anything wrong intentionally, but because she realized she never paid attention to anything but herself. I stood up, placing money for my meal on the table. And just as I turned to leave, my mom reached out, grabbed my wrist, and said something I never expected to hear. Her grip was trembling. Elena, why would you do all that for us if we treated you this way? It wasn't an accusation. It wasn't defensive. It was something far more disarming, genuine confusion mixed with something that almost resembled fear. I looked at her hand on my wrist, then at her face, a face that for years had only seen what it wanted to. A perfect daughter. A flawed daughter. A simple narrative that made sense to her. Because you're my family, I said quietly. And helping you wasn't about proving anything to you. It was about making sure you were safe. The table went silent. No comparisons. No dismissive comments. No golden child pedestal. Just the truth, sitting there between us. For the first time, my mom didn't have a comeback. For the first time, my dad couldn't look me in the eye. And for the first time, Brianna saw me, truly saw me. I gently pulled my hand free. Take care of each other, I told them. Because I'm done being invisible. As I walked out of that restaurant, I didn't feel angry or victorious. I felt free. Have you ever realized that sometimes the secret they never expected was who you were all along?